Common values. Common goals. Common sense. The Common Sense Podcast with Semi Bird.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Common Sense with Semi Bird. And today we're going to be talking about education. And I think education is perhaps one of the most important issues that we face right now, not just within our state, but within our nation. And why? Why would I say this is so important that it ranks up towards the top? Well, when we're looking at Washington State right now, when it comes to meeting grade level standards, only 50.1% of all students, 50.9% of all students are meeting grade level standards for English and language arts. When it comes to math, only 38.9% of all students are meeting grade level standards for math. And now that fluctuates between 38 and 39%. It was at 37% the other day. When it comes to science, only 42.9% of all students are meeting grade level standards in science. And so if we're talking about that phrase, reading, writing, and arithmetic, well, academically, our public education system is failing our students and failing those families, but it's doing so at a cost of approximately $17,199 per student. That's how much money we're paying to educate our children in our public education system. Here's another staggering statistic. We're failing them academically, but we're graduating them at a successful rate at 82%. So now I'm allergic to math. But when you have substandard academic results and you're graduating them at an 82% rate, that means we're turning our children out into the world with a substandard education. That is why it's probably one of the most concerning issues for families in this state. And I dare say nationwide. If you look at Virginia, many of you know Glenn Youngkin and Winsome Sears were elected last year in the governor's race because Glenn Youngkin ran on education as a primary issue. And he was successful because parents realized that their children are important factors. Here's something that's relative. Why is it that we have to argue the point that parents are the primary stakeholders in their children's upbringing? Now, when I sat on the school board, I remembered being at that General Assembly and the Washington School Directors Association Resolutions Committee. When it came to voting on the resolution was parents are the primary stakeholders in their children's education. But when it came to voting on that, the Washington State School Directors Association's recommendation was to vote no on that resolution. Now, many of you out there know I was very outspoken. I pushed back, and we were able to get that turned around, and we got it passed. But the mindset to say that parents are not. So let's talk statistics. Why would I and many others say that parents are the primary stakeholders outside of the common sense understanding as to why? Statistically, scientifically, and empirically, when parents are involved in their children's education, children acclimate to their academic environment better. When parents are involved in their children's education, children's academic standards rise. Their grades go up. And here's kind of a common sense example, if you will, to put it in context. We know that God does not make Asian children smarter than any other race. But why do they statistically, consistently, academically outperform any other demographic within the American school system, and for sure within the Washington State school system? It's because culturally, those families take a higher involvement. Parents participate more in their children's education. They put education higher as a standard within that household. So why would we not value parents as primary stakeholders? Similar to this, something I have proposed and I will continue to propose is simply this: a parents' university, where we are educating parents, giving them the tools to help them educate their children. So when that child comes home, that parent can help navigate that homework with their child. The parent can help tutor that child. The parent can help bring those tools to the forefront to help facilitate academic excellence in their children. This is something we should all consider. And for Washington State, why would we not establish a vision that simply says this? We want Washington State to be the academic center of excellence of our nation. We set that standard high, and then we create a strategic plan of engagement so that whatever we do in terms of operational engagement, we are taking steps towards academic excellence. And here's what I mean. Accountability in educating our children. Education is the highest, well, I'll just say it's 43% of our state budget is in education. Title 9 of our state constitution says it is a paramount obligation of the state to ensure quality education of Washington children. So if we take this seriously, let's set the standard high. Let's bring forward a strategic plan. Let's bring forward measurements so that we can monitor and we can engage in such a way that we are continually raising the bar so our children continue to grow academically in our school system. It's not rocket science, it's common sense. Let's get back to parents for a minute. Why would we not give parents access to their children's records? If my daughter has to see a counselor and there's something concerning, my daughter's having some kind of psychological trauma, I think that I have a right to know what's going on with my child. The most important thing in my life, my children, my wife. Why would I not have a right to that information? Well, you'll be surprised where there are laws and regulations that prevent that access. That needs to be turned around. I'm going to turn that around. Parents should have access to their children's mental health and health records. Parents should have access to their children within the school system at any time. As long as they're not disrupting their children's day-to-day education, they should have access. You see, when we partner with parents, when we get parents involved, we know what the outcome is empirically, statistically, and even common sense-wise. Children do better. And let's not forget, children belong to parents, not to the state. And so what I say is this: let children be children and let parents parent. And things will work out very well for us. That's what I believe. Let's give parents that access. Let's, as a state, pass a parent's Bill of Rights that says that we value those parents as the primary stakeholders in their children's education and in their children's upbringing. That should be easy to do. So why have we not done that yet? I know there's an amazing initiative out there that I support fully and making this happen. This is something, as governor, I will make happen one way or another. We will make it happen. We will get it done. This is important. This is a partnership. There's nothing political when it comes to our children's education. Stop and think about this. There is nothing political when it comes to educating children when we raise the bar to say we want to teach our children to the highest level. I pulled my daughter out of public school when I ran for school board because my eyes opened up and I began to see how some of these teachers were reacting to me because of my beliefs, because of some of my statements in terms of actions I would take once I was elected in the school board, and I was elected in the school board. And I saw the writing on the wall, the concerns. and I pulled my child out and I put her in private school, my child now takes scholars level courses. She was raised in the public school system, but because when they shut it down and they sent her home with a laptop and said, log on, we got you covered. I'm a behavioral scientist. I know you cannot learn, especially as a child. There's pedagogy, andragogy. Children cannot learn properly without one-on-one engagement, without that social engagement. But now my child is a straight A student at a scholars or a honors level of education. Homeschooling. Do you realize that homeschooled children perform 15 to 25% better than the results in public education? Why is that? Well, rhetorical for now. So here's what I say. Let's shift our focus within our public education system to academic excellence. Let's bring forward strategies to facilitate that. And I'll give you an example. I'm glancing here because I have some questions coming in, and I'm with you guys. I appreciate you logging in. Why would we not bring forward a scientific approach to literacy, aka structured literacy? This is a concept that has been proven to be the most effective form of teaching literacy to children. Why are we not doing it? Why have we not mandated it? As governor, this is something I will work towards doing. Even the state of Hawaii, who had some of the worst academic scores in the nation, they have switched to structured literacy because they realize the science is correct. That's just one. Universal Design for Learning Framework. Here's a concept that says simply this. When you stop and take the time to understand that all children, adults even, we learn differently. Some faster, some slower, some audio, some visual. But when we bring in a multi-tiered systems of support, when we bring in this asymmetrical concept of engaging a child in such a way that that child can receive and take ownership of in their own mind, then that child is participating in their education, and that child is learning at a faster pace and retaining the knowledge that they bring in. So there's theories that we can bring forward right now to ensure that our children are performing to a higher level. Our education system, and I'll just say our administration, has blamed COVID-19. That's why. That's why our children are failing academically. And I'll grant you the interruption. I'll give you that. No substitute for poor decision making and how the response was to that, but that's a different topic, and we'll cover it in another episode. But why are we not bringing forward a comprehensive tutoring program right now? Tutoring to catch that child up. And I'm not talking at a cost. We have families that live at or below the poverty line. They cannot afford to bring in or hire a tutor to come into their house to teach those children. There are programs that are happening right now, 0 hour, before school starts, after school, where children can be held back and given extra time to help them meet those standards, to help them to develop academically. Why can we not bring those resources? Is it not worth the money to bring those resources to get our kids back up to the level of knowledge that they should be at? So no more excuses. We need to bring solutions with actions to raise the bar, to educate our children, to release those children out into the world with the highest level of education, which ensures their success in the future. Here's another concept. Traditionally, we've educated our children with the presumption that they're going to go on to higher education, go to college. I say that is an erroneous approach. Trades. Think about this. Science is now telling us that trades are the way of the future for financial success, regardless of, again, social or economic standing. Some children do better in higher education in college. Some children don't. Some children don't want to go to college. I say that's fine. But what we should start doing is at the middle school level, my recommendation is that we bring in mentorship programs so that children are engaging with representatives of different trades and different occupations, similar to one of those job fairs, except it's programmatic to where we have people rotate into the classrooms so children see, oh, so this is what it's like to be a plumber. This is what it's like to be an electrician or an engineer or a computer science professional or a cybersecurity professional or a police officer or a fireman or a woman or a heavy equipment operator or someone who works in other trades, welding. I can go on and on and on. You get the point. Let's start bringing mentorship in at the middle school level so that they put this on their radar. And then by the time they get to high school, 9th grade, freshmen in high school, we go into what I would call a junior apprentice program to where now they are shadowing with these professionals. By the time they leave middle school, they have selected one or two occupations that they feel that they want to go into. And by the time you get into 7th grade or 8th grade, you kind of have a good idea. Things change, we know that. But imagine this in 9th grade. They are now partnering because we've established this partnership with other businesses that bring forth those trades. It's almost like internships, right? It's almost like apprenticeships. So they're meeting periodically throughout the school year. But imagine this in the summertime. Those young people are getting training during the summer. And if they're at an age where they can be paid, now they're getting training, they're getting paid, and they're getting credit for their time. Can we do that? CTE programs where we start in the freshman year, and by the time they graduate as a senior, they have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to get a high-paying job as soon as they graduate. And so they don't have to be living in their parents' basement. They now have a job and a skill that they can start their path towards success. These are things we can do. Thinking outside of the box. This is nothing extraordinary. This is something we can do. We're already bringing in these types of programs at a small scale, but they're not programmatic. They're not consistently implemented. So there's a lot that we can do. This is just a few ideas that I wanted to bring forward to share with you. Now, we had some questions that were sent in via email, and I printed it out. One of them was, let's see here. Do you think realistically, is it possible to redirect educational funds back to local school districts for local control? So, not understanding the true context of the question, what I will say is this. Most fundings for our school system comes from the state. Title I programs, which means if you're a school within a low-income district, then you'll get federal Title I funds, but predominantly funds come from the state. Again, it's high in our budget, 43%. And imagine this, taxpayers. Our tax money that goes into education program, you pay money in your local taxes for levies and bonds, and you see the results that we're getting. So here's what I say to this question. How about accountability? Whereas a school district is going to be held accountable for how they perform. You want state funding, you want taxpayer dollars, then you have to earn it. You have to demonstrate that you're taking steps towards academic excellence within your school district, and we are seeing key performance indicators, metrics that you're growing forward stronger in your education of our children. I think that's fair. And when we talk about local control is most exhibited in your school board. 28 Alpha.150.230 is the RCW that regulates school board directors. That gives power to the citizens of that community to choose who their school board directors are. Do they have a mindset of academic excellence? Will they get elected and bring forward a strategic plan for their school district so that their school district not only performs more fiscally responsible, taxpayers, but they're laying out a strategic plan that brings in elements of academic excellence. For example, when we see that we have a gap in learning, we reassess, we reevaluate, and we bring forward corrective actions to raise the bar. That is what a strategic plan would give. If I have my druthers, I would make it mandatory for every school district in Washington state. If you want state funding, I want to see a strategic plan. I want to know that these school districts are doing everything in their power to raise the bar and achieve academic excellence. I remember when I was the school board director and I proposed, because, as a behavioral scientist and as a performance improvement consultant, I've been doing this for years, helping corporations and universities and other institutions, hospitals, develop strategic plans. I had so much pushback. I even had people say, well, teachers, you can't expect teachers to do this. Let me make something very clear for everyone, because again, nothing I'm saying should be perceived as political, right? What I'm saying is simply this. I love our teachers. I love our educators. One of the most noble professions on the planet, where you are taking in a child's education in your hands. And people who go into these occupations do so with a beautiful heart and a mindset of doing good for our children. So when we have so much rhetoric that people will attack teachers, please do not consider or confuse teachers with the teachers union. And I have no animus towards the teachers union. I was invited to sit for endorsement. I chose not to, because for me, my belief system does not align with their belief system. And what does that mean exactly? Well, I believe that our schools are public institutions and they have an obligation to the community that they operate in to provide value for that community through education, quality education of those children. I believe that teachers unions' function should be predominantly to support our teachers, our educators. That doesn't require getting involved into special interest, social issues. It requires them to support their clients, those educators, those administrators, and then we would get along. I would support that because I have a high regard for our educators and our administrators. So I wanted to put that out there. Nothing political, everything practical. Let's go back to questions. And I've got some on the screen. I'm seeing you guys there as well. Do you support homeschooling? And would money follow their backpacks? 100%. So if I haven't made it clear, if you haven't seen my website, birdforgovernor.com, you would know that I support school choice. I support school choice. Why? Because you bring in competition. You bring in competition when schools realize that they get paid, and they already know this, they get paid by per student, FTE. Depending on how many children you have enrolled in your school determines how much money you get as a school district. But now if parents have a choice to ensure that their child gets a quality education, which means that parent can enroll their child in a private school or a charter school of their choice, and that money follows the backpack, then that means that you're empowering parents to ensure what's right and what's best for their children. If you have a public school that is so focused on social justice or social this and social that, and the parent said, this does not align with my beliefs, I want my child to be focused on academics, not on this social stuff, well, parents have a choice to pull their child out and put their child in a private school of their choosing. That's what I support. Not giving up on the public education system at all. We need public education, believe it or not, we do. And I believe in lifting it up, empowering it, strengthening it, making it the gold standard. But competition between public education and private education will help to do that. It's a natural progression of things. In terms of homeschooling, my proposal does not mess with homeschooling families, which means there are no strings attached. This is simply an account, an education account, where money is deposited in that account, and parents as needed can pull that money out. For example, a homeschool family has to pay for curriculum, has to pay for books, has to pay for software and materials for their homeschool program. They would get reimbursed for that. Nothing changes from what they're doing right now. There's no strings attached. They're just finally going to get compensated for educating their children and using their own money, their own expenses for doing it. And so These are things that we can do to help. I want to go over to the screen. Kyle Nichols says, you're blaming the schools and the school district for a lot of the failures. It starts at the state level. All of the reporting bureaucracy required, and it puts a burden on teachers. So the state is putting all these burdens on teachers with recording. But by the way, Kyle, it's not the teachers that are responsible for all that reporting. It's the administration level. Teachers' jobs are to educate children. And to be very clear, if you heard me blame teachers, I could have swore I said that one of the most noble professions on the planet. And I have a high, if not the highest regard for teachers and our educators who give their lives and their souls to educate our children. I'm repeating that so that you understand. High value, no blame. By the way, blame is a victim behavior that I choose to avoid. I'm talking about bringing solutions with actions to raise the standard of education, not putting more burdens on our teachers or our educators. No, not at all. I'm not asking for that. If we want to have a conversation and talk about what paperwork is required, and I know the paperwork, again, Kyle, I'm not sure which school you teach at or which school you're a principal or superintendent of, but I would have that conversation with you. I would listen to you. And if there are unnecessary burdens being put on teachers that need to be reeled back, I will listen. I will learn. And if it helps our educators to free them up to focus on what they need to focus on, I'm all in. So again, no blame, just bringing steps towards excellence. Let's see what else we have here. You know, we've talked about ideas for helping to educate, and I'll be checking here, and I'm going to go back to another question. Another question, do you support school choice? I think I answered that. Are there executive actions that you can take to fix the education without requiring Democrat support? Here's what I would say to that. Again, my focus on much of my platforms, I try not to make it political, but make it practical and realistic, because whether it's law enforcement or education, it shouldn't be about politics. It should be about people. It should be about raising the standard and bringing performance, creating value for our citizens that we serve. That's what I believe in. And so what can the governor do? Well, the governor can appoint 7 of the 14 commissioners in the Board of Education. That's something that the governor can do. The governor, by RCW and by Article 3 of the Constitution, Article 3 of the Washington State Constitution, gives the governor the right to request information. So I can bring a query to OSP, Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, and say, I'd like to know this. Tell me what's going on here. Give me the statistics. Give me the reports on this. I can request that by constitutional right. 43.06.10 the Revised Code of Washington also gives me that same right. So these are things, to answer your question, my friend, that a governor can do. But I believe that education should be a common sense approach. I pray that regardless of your political affiliation or ideology, that we can always agree that for Washington State to become the center of academic excellence for the nation, I think that's something we should all be able to get our heads around and support. This is good for everyone because it's great for our children. Parents have to fight to see the curriculum being taught in schools. How is this legal, and what will you do about it? So as a school board director, one of the policies we brought forward, and again, it takes three. I had 2 other amazing school board directors that I served with that were growth-minded. And we passed a policy that said, number 1, if you're going to teach anything controversial in the school, we will give parents the heads up, an opportunity to opt their children out. So parents know what's being taught to their children, but we give them the opportunity to opt out. Here's one of the disturbing things I heard from our superintendent and a couple other board directors when I was serving. And they said it's the parents' obligation to go in and review through the tens of thousands of pages of curriculum to see specifically what they would want to opt their children out of. And I said during that board meeting, it's recorded, by the way, that's too much of a burden for a family. You have parents that are working 8 to 10 hours a day, and then they're supposed to come home, take care of their children. If they're moms, or in my case, single moms, they're working all day. They come home, they're spending time with their children, they're cooking, they're cleaning, they're doing all those other things. And you know what I'm talking about. Moms, you're amazing. And then now you're going to get online and you're going to hope that you have access, and you're going to scroll through tens, and that's not realistic. It's our jobs as education institutions to understand what's right, what's wrong, and to make sure that we're transparent with those families. That is our job. This should be a partnership. Think of it that way, a partnership. And if we find that we're doing something wrong, let's fix it. We talk about controversial books in libraries. We talk about comprehensive sex education. My concern with comprehensive sex education is that we're over-sexualizing our children. And when you over-sexualize a child, you give them this broad and consistent access. You desensitize them. And it makes them vulnerable to predators and to grooming. This has been realized through empirical study. So we have to be careful. We have to make sure that we're protecting the innocence of our children. And I hope that doesn't sound political. It's not my intent to make it be political, but it's my intent to protect the innocence of our children, to be transparent with families, to bring parents and families, to integrate them in partnership to bring forward quality education for our students. And I'm looking just to make sure I'm not missing anything up there. Let's see here. We'll get to it. Guys, I'm still looking. I'm kind of doing multitasking here. We have a couple more questions in here that I want to answer. What can parents do to stand up to schools? So parents, here's what I would say. I don't want you to feel that you have to stand up to them, that you have to fight with them, that you have to battle with them. I want us to partner with our school systems, because our school systems in those communities, those schools in those communities, those school districts, they serve the community. They're funded by your taxpayer dollars. And so you are stakeholders in your education system. So don't feel that you have to fight them, but please get engaged, get involved. One of the things that we did, the first motion that I made as a school board director, the night that I swore, put my hand up, I walked up to the dais, I took a seat, and I made a motion to form the first ever parent advisory committee to the school board so that parents had access and a voice in determining outcomes for our school district, so that they were participating and partnering with our schools, because I believe that was the right thing to do. So to answer the question, community members, parents, think about who you're voting for when you vote for school board directors. Find a school board director with a mindset of service, that they understand that they're there to serve those constituents who put them in office, because that's what it says in that RCW 28alpha.150.230. Look it up, even while I'm on the air here, and you'll see it's probably in the first paragraph. It talks about the obligations school board directors have to those community constituents. Let's see here. Someone was talking about the value of trades, finance, mechanics. I agree 100%. Oh my goodness, there's so much. Trade work is abundant. We need more of that, and that's why I propose that junior apprenticeship program, which again starts with a mentorship program in middle school, grows into the junior apprenticeship program starting in 9th grade, and by the time that child graduates, my desire would be that child graduates with a job placement, a good paying job, because that employer has been working with that child. That child knows how to run a backhoe, a skid steer, an excavator. I'm just using that as an example. Or they become an apprentice. And then also, I am not against union jobs. I am not against trades. I support the trades. Quality apprenticeship programs, the best in the world. Absolutely. Let's get them involved in that. So one person said, I think this is Kyle again, why not hold teachers accountable for the success or failure of kids? Absolutely. Now we're talking. And again, for my teachers or educators, it's not to penalize. It's not putting a spotlight on you and accuse. No, not at all. More often than not, our educators need support. And one of the things that Kyle alluded to at first, if they're burdened with all these reports and all these different things, let's unburden them and shift focus to help them on their main mission of educating them. But when we're talking about accountability, that requires leadership. So one of the things I would encourage everybody listening, go into your school board, ask that superintendent, how are they evaluating? How is she or he, as a superintendent of schools, evaluating their next level down? By the way, I'm a subject matter expert in this. I've written employee evaluation reports from scratch using Likert scales, et cetera, et cetera. But how are they evaluating? What you're going to find, and often, again, not shifting blame, not accusing, more often than not, the level of accountability of leadership to ensure performance at that next level down, it's not there. It's not there. Many systems, they're afraid to hold people accountable. We're not all the same. But at the same time, because you have one person that's not performing to a standard, you cannot label all teachers as being bad. They're all this. No, it's not right. It's not fair. It's like labeling all police officers as bad because one police officer does something silly. No, it's not fair. It's not right. But let's release those burdens. Let's get the facts. Let's make sure that we're actually bringing measures of accountability to say that let's give you all the support you need. I was speaking of that scientific approach to reading, which is structured literacy. Well, there's a LETTERS program, is what they call it. It's an acronym. Well, we should be investing in our teachers to make sure that we give them that extra training, give them that time to acclimate, to learn this new approach, and then help them, support them. How's this? How about teachers partnering with paras, right? So now we have dual educators in a classroom, a partnership, so that we can spend more time with the students. And people say, well, that's going to cost a lot of money. That's going to cost a lot of money. Well, are our children not worth the investment? Because we're spending $17,199 per child now, and we're performing substandardly. So I imagine if we bring a strategic approach, utilizing key performance indicators to measure steps towards excellence, I think we'll perform more effectively, more efficiently, and more fiscally responsible. So Kyle, I'm with you 100% on that. Let's see here. So someone wanted to ask me about gun laws. I'm checking time. I know this is about education. And I'll never turn down a good question. Folks, just real quick, speaking of gun laws, I'm going to stay on this for a minute. I do support the Second Amendment, Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution. Then you have the Supremacy Clause, which is Article 6, Paragraph 2 of the United States Constitution. Article 1, Section 2 of the Washington State Constitution says the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. I can go back and forth with this, but no, I do support it. It's not because I'm a shooter, I'm a gun freak, or anything else like that. It's the Constitution. And if you know me, the Constitution is the foundation of my administration. The Constitution is for all of us to protect the citizens. The Constitution is there to protect the citizens. It is not there to protect government. I'm just going to say this, Article 1, Section 1, power is inherent in the people, and government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed, and it is government's job to protect and to maintain the individual rights of citizens. I believe this to my heart, very seriously and very literally. And so when we talk about the Second Amendment, I support it wholeheartedly. And these assault weapons bans, these mag capacity bans, again, I'm just going to real quick. Supreme Court kicked it back down. Judge Benavides, Ninth Circuit, we're in the Ninth Circuit. It was found unconstitutional. Again, I think it's going to get sorted out. We now have a precedent, and we have a judge who understands the Constitution. We have some other questions in here. But while we're talking about weapons, let's just understand this. The American Psychological Association has determined that guns don't kill people. People kill people. It is social, economic, psychological factors that leads to gun violence. And so as governor, I plan on bringing forth a whole host of social programs to break down the dysfunction that leads to this. We need to reinvest in our mental health systems. We need to build that infrastructure to be stronger. We need to maintain the strength of our families. We need to protect our families. We need to support our families, because how we grow up has a direct correlation to how we act as adults. Just my 2 cents. And while we're talking about guns, can we agree to have school resource officers in every school from elementary through middle school to high school, so that children grow up seeing our amazing law enforcement professionals in their schools, so that they can see them as partners, as friends, as mentors, as someone that is there to protect them, someone is there to support them. I think it's a good thing. And it protects our children, our active shooter programs. I promise you this, in federal government, I used to support this directly as a federal director of training and leadership development. Homeland Security is run, hide, fight. There are too many schools out there who do not have active shooter programs in place. This means that teachers and administrators should be trained on a regular basis. Protocols should be written. Children should understand we should conduct drills. We should have vulnerability assessments done at every single school so that we understand any access gaps. This is, again, an area of specialty of mine. Understanding the value of vestibules, secure points throughout the school day, access protocols, systems, technology, physical security to protect our children. I think that's something we should all appreciate. So I kind of took Second Amendment and I quickly brought us back to education. Stay with me on this. Stay with me. I saw a couple questions here, and one said, mental stability, testing like prison guard. Yeah, I got you on that. But someone brought something up here, not necessarily, relative to our discussion in schools, but they were talking about a poll that came out. And the poll came out from the Northwest Progressive Institute. And that says a lot. And again, I'm not against anyone. I'm for everyone. But it really showed a focus on results. And they had me at, polling at number 3. And you guys know the value of polls. I'm going to be nice. This poll had a sample rate of 700 people. 700 was the sample size. And what they say, 700 most likely voters were polled. And if you think 700 and you have 39 counties, well, if you divide that out, again, I'm allergic to math, but I think that comes out to 17.96 or something, which would mean, let's round up, that's about, you're polling 18 people per county if you average it out. Is that an effective poll? No, it's not. Could there be a meaning behind it or an intent behind it? Most likely there is. As someone who's trained in doctoral research methodology and validation, yeah, I take it with a grain of salt. But again, this is what I would call propaganda, where you utilize these instruments and you put it out there to say, see, this person doesn't stand a chance, or these guys, they're the guys, they're the ones. No matter what we do, my friends, we need to make sure that we are valuing the voices of our citizens, that we don't have an establishment of political aristocrats or wealthy elites that are using tools, if you will, to manipulate the election process, to unfairly influence election outcomes. We must make sure, no matter what, that we give that opportunity to our citizens. And that is most realized during the primary. I digressed. Someone asked me, should teachers carry guns? Here's what I say to that. It depends on the will of the people. The governor doesn't make laws at all. Power is inherent in the people, and the laws are made by those elected officials who serve those stakeholders, the constituents, the people. If you want something like that to happen, you need to put it out there. Now, personally, if we were to do something like that, those teachers would need to be trained. Those weapons would need to be concealed, in my opinion. I mean, I have a couple opinions on that, and I'm not really big on opinions because you know what they say. But I'm not averse to it. To answer your question, TBMC, I'm not averse to it. Anything that we can do to protect our children. I'm a fan of bringing former law enforcement into schools, bringing former military into schools. Many of our military, our military police, many of them served special operations. I mean, we have very highly qualified people. We bring them in and we put them through a certification course to be school security specialized to understand how to protect our children. I support something like that. But I am not averse if the people say that we want to arm our teachers. I'm not averse to it. But I think we have an obligation as a system to bring forward protection so we don't put that burden on our teachers. That's my 2 cents. Trying to look to see what else we have here, if there's anything else. Let me see here. Ray, let me see. He said, I didn't say learn a trade. I said teach them to be business owners backed by a skill. Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Entrepreneurship, 100%, Ray. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, 100%. And by the way, I think that's replying. That's Becky. Sorry about that, Becky. Trying to stay focused with all these questions popping up and down. Absolutely. I support that. I support teaching trades. I support teaching small business, entrepreneurship. I did a graduate program at UCLA. It was amazing. I'm a serial entrepreneur. There's nothing that gives more freedom than a good paying job. And then when you have an opportunity to have your own business, there it is. You are determining your future through your own effort. We call that meritocracy. And while we're on this subject, here it goes. It's going to seem controversial, but it shouldn't be. But you deserve to know this. Semi Bird does not support critical race theory or teaching critical race theory to our teachers. Now, or to our students, or to our teachers for that matter, but that's up to them. They're adults. I do not believe in teaching a child that the color of their skin determines their outcome in life. I think that's racist. I think that's wrong. I think every child has a potential for excellence, and what we should be teaching: resiliency, self-reliance, self-esteem, self-respect, understand their self-worth. I think those are elements that sets a child up for success, because I don't care what color your skin is, we are all capable of excellence. And as a kid born without civil rights, and as someone who's realized the American dream, someone who lived in a household with a single mom because she was amazing, I believe in what I believe in because I know it's right. So we teach truth in history. If we have a Hispanic or a Black or a Native American hero, they're American heroes. Let's teach that. We don't have to segregate ourselves anymore. We've grown past that. Let's not go backwards. Let's lean forward and let's grow together. Let's teach children resiliency so they know how to navigate adversity and that we are setting them up for success. And theory being the key word. I got you, Chuck. Let's see what we got here. Nope, proper lockbox. So we're talking still about protocols. Let's see what else we have here. I think we need security to protect our children. Yes. I've had, yep. I wouldn't feel good with being going to class. Yeah. No, and so we have a former teacher that says that she wouldn't, and thank you, Tina. Tina says, I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing a gun in a classroom. And I respect that 100%. I mean, my wife is not comfortable around firearms. Well, she wasn't. Now, because of things that are happening in society, she's like, okay, honey, teach me, right? Teach me. But I respect that greatly, Tina. And that's why I hesitated. And I'm glad you picked out on this, because it should not be an obligation of a teacher. It should be the obligation of the school system to provide that layer of security to protect our children. Of course, we're protecting our teachers, our educators, and our administrators at the same time. So that's where I'm at. And Tina, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't want to drag this out too much, but I do really love answering your questions. This gentleman, Sherry, or young lady, Sherry says, part of growing forward is learning what got us here to begin with. No more erasing history. Sherry, I agree. I agree. And so, my friends, we're right there. We're right there at this cusp. And I'm with Sherry, and I'm valuing what her statement was. We have to acknowledge what happened. And it's not blame. We don't do it in a blame way. We acknowledge what happened. And then we say, using those lessons learned, what are we doing now to ensure it doesn't happen again? What did we learn from this? How can we utilize some of the darkness in our history to grow stronger into the light? I agree 100%. And that's why I was saying, I think you heard me. I hope you heard me teach truth in history. I believe that, you guys. There's no code in this. We're not talking 1619 or anything like this. We're talking real common sense truth. History is science. Teach the facts. Don't hold back. There's nothing wrong with it. Just keep it real, as they say, right? Someone says, well, will you be back in Clark County? Soon, I hope, Jake. I love Clark County. Clark County's been good to me. I can say that about a lot of counties. I was just in Whitman last night, and I'm honored and proud to say that Whitman County endorsed me last night. I'm not even sure if we made that public yet, but oops, I just did, and we're live. So we're growing forward together. People are realizing. That's why I say, guys, don't worry about the polls. Don't worry about the polls. They're polls, right? Let's worry about us. Let's worry about doing what we can do to affect what we want to affect. This governor's race is something that we're doing together. We the people. We the people. We the people mean all people. All races, all creeds, all colors, all religions. That's who I am. That's how I roll. Black American, white American, Asian American, Native American, we're all Americans. We're loved. We're brothers and sisters under the red, white, and blue. Can we get our heads around that and love each other? Can we lead with love? Can we stop this modern day segregation where we have to over-label each other and just love each other for who we are and how we represent? Can we have a disagreement and still respect one another? I say yes. You treat me nice. You present something in such a way that you're not coming out and throat punching me and you're right or insulting me. I will talk with you. I will learn from you. That's how we should be, right? And if we don't agree, we walk away still respecting one another. Karen says, when will you be back in King County? Tonight. I was just over there in Pierce County. And another wonderful endorsement, Roger Archer, senior pastor of Motion Church, a beautiful church. And I got to say, while I'm talking about that, we have some amazing pastors over there, you guys. So many. Pastor Patricia, shout out to you. Jeff, my brother from Snohomish and Reset, love you, brother. Shout out to you. Dennis Cummings, Experience Church, another beautiful church, beautiful pastors, Pastor Dennis, Pastor Lori. I mean, folks are saying, Simi, Teresa Selby just said, Kitsap County? Oh, that's right, Cross the Rock Church. Sorry. And don't get me wrong, guys. I don't beat people with the Bible. I'm not a theologian, right? But I'm a fan. Why churches? Well, not just churches, mosques, synagogues. We the people, right? We represent. We work together. We come together. We support each other, right? And are not churches often or historically that moral compass of every community? Why not? Let's have some discussions. Let's learn from one another. And I just saw that our Whitman County endorsements on the website. Awesome. Thank you, Dee. We talked about Kitsap County. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I think I'm catching up on my messages here. But when it comes to education, because that is the subject of today's podcast, there's a lot that we can do. Do you guys realize that we have an RCW that states we must teach morality and patriotism? We must teach morality and patriotism. That's an RCW. Look it up. 28 Alpha. I want to say it's 300.30, and I'm guessing. But if you just look up RCW on patriotism and morality, you'll see it. But it is an RCW. Why can we not just teach what the law says we should be teaching? What's wrong with teaching a child to be patriotic, to love their country, to love their community? I remember when I was growing up in Seattle, because by the way, if you didn't already know it, I was raised in Seattle. You know, I dropped out of high school in Seattle, by the way. I am a high school dropout. From K through 11th grade, I had D's, I had F's, C minuses. C's were like A's to me. I struggled academically. You know, I went in the Marine Corps, got my high school diploma because I was 17 when I went in, still immature, but I got my high school diploma. Folks, I have my bachelor's degree in business administration, 4.0, summa cum laude, my graduate degree in human resource development. I'm a PHR, 3.74, finishing up my PhD, 3.92, in organizational psychology. That goes back to that point. Every child learns differently. I wasn't the dumb kid, as I used to be called. It's okay. I just learned differently. I learned slower, but once I got it, I got it. Once I got it, I got it. There's excellence in all of us. Oh, I think Dee's posting that RCW on morality and patriotism, teaching morality and patriotism. This is the RCW. Now I see it. It is it. 28alpha.405.030 is the RCW. 28alpha.405.030. That it's a requirement to teach morality and patriotism in school. Why not? There's no downside. When I was a kid growing up, I started to say we learned about our Native American heritage. our Native American heritage. Native American heritage is our heritage, especially in Washington State. We have amazing tribes. This is something to be proud of. That beauty and culture. I was with the Makah tribe not too long ago. What an amazing experience that was. We are all brothers and sisters in the state of Washington. It's time for us to come together. Time for us to come together. Love one another, support one another. And in this governor's race, I think it's important for us to say, it's time to put people over politics. And in this discussion, episode 4 in education, it's time to put our children above our petty differences and unite to come together and bring forward academic excellence in our school systems. We can do this, right? Aim small, miss small. Set a high standard to be that regional center of academic excellence right here in Washington State. Bring forward real solutions with actions, not blaming, not pointing fingers, not dividing, not talking about you're a teacher and I don't like this, or you're the teachers union, you're evil. There's no one evil. Everybody has their different beliefs. Everybody has their way of doing things. Bring your best self to the table. Bring grace and an open heart and an open mind to the table, and let's have a discussion. That is my promise to everyone listening today to this podcast. As you get to know me, I'm an imperfect person, right? I'm just this hot mess brought forward to serve. That's all it is. Brought forward to serve. I'm a vessel. I'm a term limits guy, so I don't plan on staying in office too long. Come in, utilize my knowledge, skills, and abilities to make things better. That's what I do for a living. I have a resume. I say that over and over and over again. I want to come in and bring the very best to Washington State. Could you imagine this beautiful state, the most beautiful state in the nation, where our streets are clean, our schools are high performing, our businesses are thriving. We have more women, minorities, all groups coming into small business ownership. Keep this in mind. When you raise anybody out of poverty, we all benefit from that. We all benefit from that. Someone said, when I said I want to revision our social services programs to say we don't pay people just enough money to stay poor for the rest of their life. We bring in certification programs, trade programs. We teach people how to fish. We don't just sit there and give them fish for the rest of their life. That creates generational poverty. We bring real value and compassion. That's meritocracy. That realizes Dr. Martin Luther King's dream. By lifting people up out of poverty, we all benefit because now they're taxpayers. Now they're paying into their communities. Now they're bringing forth new generations who have seen what success is. Like I saw my mother, that single woman, that angel, gave her life for her children. I watched, I learned, I observed. She was my role model. This is what I stand for. It's time to put people over politics. It's time to unite. It's time to come together. And if I say something that offends, let me know. Let me know. I have no problems apologizing if I say something that offends. But you need to understand I speak my truth. And my truth is just straight up truth. If I believe something, I will tell you. If I'm wrong, you tell me why I'm wrong, and I'll learn from you. But I am not afraid to bring truth. Truth is love. Pastor Dennis Cummins, I remember we had a service on that. Truth is love. And if you love someone, you bring that truth. That's what I endeavor to do as what I would call a candidate of the people, by the people, for the people. I'm your representative. I'm your servant leader. That's what you're going to get when you elect me in office. And so with that, I hope I gave you some value in this episode. I'm going to try to get my clicky thing going so I can go out in style. But I appreciate you guys. I hope these episodes work. Keep asking questions. Tell everybody about our podcast. Every podcast, I will endeavor to bring forth information that is value added so that you guys can say, we are getting something out of it. I'm learning, Simi. I'm learning more about you. I'm learning how you think. I'm learning whether I want to vote for you or not. But what I want you to take away is that I will always listen. And we don't always have to agree. Just be nice, and I'll take as much time as I need to, as you need me to to learn from you. So with that being said, I'm going to say thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you next week. It'll be fun. Take care. Till then, God bless you, Washington.